Hello everyone, welcome to Chapter 4. Chapter 4 will be a relatively short chapter, however, it will be an incredibly important chapter. In this chapter, we're going to look at the many different ways that Blender looks at pivot points in both object and edit mode. And we're going to work right from the top. Now, let's define a pivot point. A pivot point is the point in space around which any kind of rotation or transformation or scaling, or later on when we get into mirroring, is centered. There are 5 different types of pivot points in Blender, so we're going to take each one with each video. We have a drop-down list that we can access them by, and that is right down here next to all of our other tools that we've been using with these 2 little circles. Now, by default, we'll be on median point. We'll get to that, but we're just going to take it straight from the top and look at what each one does. So we have active element. Basically, active element can be an object, or in edit mode, it could be a vertex or an edge or a face. Now, if you remember from our earlier lessons, when we select things in Blender, whatever we selected last, whether we select one thing, making it the last one we selected, or multiple things, whatever we selected last is considered our active element. So, if we have our pivot point on active element, and we have just one item selected, we'll see this little orange dot. And this little orange dot is that item's current pivot point. So if we go into rotation, say, our cube will turn around that pivot point. If we scale, we will scale based on that pivot point being considered the center for the scale. Now, if we select multiple items and add in our monkey, you'll notice that we've hopped over to the dot in the middle of the monkey. And now we don't have bright orange over here. Now if we go to, say, rotation, even our cube is rotating based on the monkey being the center of the rotation. If we go back and click our cube again and make it the current active object, then the monkey reacts to it. If we scale, the monkey will also scale down, but it will also scale towards our cube. So that's what an active element transformation is. We will have quite a few other ones, and like I said, this won't be a terribly long chapter, but I do want to emphasize that really understanding how these pivot points work in their different modes will strongly affect both your ability to do things and the speed with which you can do things, because a lot of things that might be tough can actually turn out to be pretty easy to do if you really understand how to use pivot points to your advantage. Alright, so we've looked at this one in object mode. Now let's take a look at it in edit mode. So I'm going to deselect everything, select my cube, and tab into that. Going to hit Control Tab and start off with face. Select a face. And as you can see, our widget hops right to that center of that face. If we do a rotation now, we rotate just the face. However, there is some transformation in the faces around it. And that's because in face or edge mode, you're really not transforming the face. You're transforming the 4 vertices that make up the face. And those 4 vertices are connected to other vertices. So there will be some reaction between those. If we go to edge mode, We can hit rotation, or we can hit scale, and we get the same thing. It's all working off what Blender considers to be the center of these elements. If we go to vertex mode, let's see what happens there. Let's select one vertex and rotate it. Now in this case, nothing appears to happen. Why is that? Well, that's because a vertex is just a single point in space. It doesn't have any actual dimension to it. You need more than one to start creating some kind of dimension. So, since you can't transform it in space because it's only occupying one point in space, nothing happens. What if we were to select multiple things? Let's go back to face. And this time, let's select two faces. Well, the first thing we notice is that we get a active selection, just like we do in object mode with separate objects. So I'm guessing you'll have a pretty good idea what's going to happen here. If we rotate, our other face is also going to move along our last active face's center point. And the same is true if we go to edges. If we select a couple of edges here that aren't together, we get this same strange pulling. So you can get some very weird results if you're not really thinking through what you're doing, but you can also get some pretty spectacular results by using these pivot points. But I think that about covers us for active element. So we'll go ahead and close out this video and we'll move on to medium point. See you there.